Welcome Endgame community. I'm Pierre, he's Chris, and today we're going to talk about which running backs you should have in your lineup for week 13 of the fantasy football season. Now let's begin with the guys who are matchup proof every single week, the must start players. Jonathan Taylor, of course, Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, Cordero Patterson, Leonard Fournette, and if he plays, Alvin Kamara. Speaking of the Saints, they're going to take on the Cowboys Thursday night. Now, we know if Kamara plays, you have to put him in your lineup. What about Mark Ingram?
I think he's an okay start. We saw, that before Kamara got hurt in Ingram's second game with the team after being traded, he only had 3 less touches than Kamara in that game. So I think there'll be enough work here to make Ingram a solid flex play. Not a must start, but an okay start.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. It's like you can't get too excited about him. If he has the backfield to himself, if Kamara is ruled out, then yes, you start Ingram. If Kamara's playing, I would only put him in if I was desperate. I just didn't have a better option. So he's a solid maybe. Now about the Cowboys, a lot of concern about Zeke Elliott and his knee. He sounds like he's going to be playing with no problems. Do you feel good about him in your lineup?
No, but you kind of have to start him, right? Because there's not a lot of running backs out there you can feel much better about Zeke. So don't love the matchup. Don't love the fact that he's dealing with his knee injury, but I think you got to start him.
Yeah, you have to because that touchdown upside is always there. If he's playing, that means he's good to go, but you can't like the matchup. Saints, still the toughest against running backs, limiting runners to the fewest yards per carry. So Zeke is I guess you have to start him. What about Tony Pollard?
Kind of like Mark Ingram. Maybe I feel a little bit better about Pollard than Mark Ingram as a flex option because we even saw it on Thanksgiving Day. He's getting more and more involved. And with Zeke dealing with that knee issue, you got to think he'll be a little bit more involved. The matchup's not great, but he's an okay flex play. Definitely not a must start.
Yep, agree there. I do like Pollard. I think he will get more touches, but again, the matchup isn't good. So he's if you need him guy, then you can put him in, but not a must start. All right, now let's take a look at the backs who are clear starters for their teams, and we want to know if they should be a starter on your team. Alexander Mattison, that's right, Dalvin Cook. It seems like he's going to miss week 13, of course. Things keep changing by the minute, so we'll see by the time that this airs. But let's assume it's going to be Mattison starting for the Vikings against the Detroit Lions. Does that make him a must start?
Yes. It doesn't need an explanation, right? Yes. It's the Lions, it's Mattison, yes.
Just starting against the Lions, that's all you need to say, right? Okay, so Mattison, we've seen what he can do when he's a starter. 2 games as a starter, over 120 rushing yards each time. So definitely a must start. On the other side, looks like DeAndre Swift won't play. His coach sounding pessimistic. So does that mean Jamal Williams gets into your lineup?
Not as emphatically as Alexander Mattison, but Jamal Williams also a must start. He had 20 touches in that game. Even with Swift playing a decent amount of that game, we know Jared Goff will dump the ball off a ton to him. So yeah, Jamal Williams a must start.
I'm going to go with maybe on Williams. It's hard for me to say any Detroit Lion is must start. Even Swift himself, the more talented back, he's had some bad games when he's healthy. And so Williams in this matchup, I think he'll be okay. It's just the upside is limited. So for me, you can start him, but there's some other guys I do like better. All right, now what about Saquon Barkley going against the Dolphins? We really want to see Barkley get going, but is he going to do it finally in week 13?
Yes. Maybe I'm just overly optimistic, but I feel like they're going to get him more involved. I think he's looked great these last 2 games as far as health-wise. He looked explosive on that 32-yard run. I think he's going to get more involved. I know the Dolphins have been better against running backs lately, but I still like his chances. So to me, yes, he's a must start.
I want to be a believer in Barkley. I'm optimistic for the rest of the season, but I'm going to say no in this matchup. And this is not a homer pick because I'm a Dolphin fan. The Dolphins defense has come back to last year's level. They are holding running backs down quite a bit. So I'm going to say it's going to take another week for Barkley to really get going. I don't think he's an absolute must sit, but I don't think he's a must start just yet. And on the flip side, Myles Gaskin, 2 touchdowns last week. Does he keep it going against this Giants kind of middle of the pack run defense?
He's an okay start. He's kind of in that tier of volume-based, touchdown-dependent running back. So definitely not a must start, but he's an okay start if you need him.
I think in PPR leagues, you can start him. I think he's going to kind of live in that low-end RB2 range. So not absolute must start. I think this week I'm going to fire him up, though. I'm going to give him the thumbs up. All right, let's go to the Bears and the Cardinals. James Conner had a week to rest, and now he is going to resume his role as the guy who scores every single week. So is he going to keep it going against the Bears?
Probably, but he's definitely, right now with all the running back injuries and everything going on, James Conner's got to be a must start.
I agree. You got to keep him in your lineup because chances are he's going to find the end zone somehow, some way. But what about David Montgomery? I know you put him in your panic player video. It's definitely a guy you have to worry about because he's on that Bears offense.
Yeah, you got to worry about him, but he's also a guy that's hard to bench because there's not a lot of running backs getting the snap share and touch share that he gets. So not a must start, but definitely a good start and a solid start.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he's Myles Gaskin-esque here because he's living in that RB2 range. Again, you probably don't have a lot of better options than him, but he's not a must start. And I don't like his chances in this matchup because don't think the Bears are going to be able to establish the run all that much against this Cardinals defense. So I'm leaning towards no for Monty. All right, now let's move on to the Jaguars. You just want to say no patently to every single player on their roster. But James Robinson, we know he's good when he gets the ball. How do you feel about him in week 13?
Again, kind of like Montgomery. He's a guy you can't really bench because you probably don't have a better option. He's still getting the bulk of the work, playing the bulk of the snaps. But it's the Jaguars. It's the Rams. You can't feel great about it. So, okay matchup, but not a must start.
I'm just going to go with a hard no here because the Rams, they want to snap their 3-game skid. This is a get-right spot for them. They're going to play the role of bully. I think they're going to run up the score against the Jags, and they're going to take Robinson out. So I feel like this is a spot that you can sit Robinson. Now, on the other hand, Darrell Henderson, been a little disappointing lately, as the Rams offense in general has been, other than some garbage time yardage for Stafford and Kupp. Who would have thought we would have said that a few weeks ago? Darrell Henderson against the Jaguars, you got to roll him out, don't you?
Yeah, if this isn't the week for Darrell Henderson, I don't know when it will be. So definitely a must start this week.
Agree, got to start him. I feel pretty good about the Rams' chances this week. Now, Antonio Gibson, how do you feel about him going against the Raiders?
A very good start. I don't want to quite say must start because he is still a little touchdown dependent, but the Raiders not a fearsome run defense, so I'm going to say borderline must start.
And that Raiders defense is reeling a little bit lately. Their pass defense is still mostly good, but I think that there's enough optimism for Gibson. Look, he seems better. I guess that week of rest helped, so I'm going to say yes to Gibson. I feel like he's going to be kind of the high-end RB2 side. And then Josh Jacobs, I'm also optimistic about because Kenyon Drake, for some reason, has just disappeared, and Jacobs is a workhorse again. I got to give him the thumbs up, too.
I can never give Josh Jacobs a must start. I'm sorry. He's just too touchdown dependent for me. But I do think he's a very good start this week.
All right, there you go. Fair enough. Now you have to say Elijah Mitchell is a must start because 4 out of his 8 games started, he's gone over 100 yards. He was absolutely a beast last week without Debo. It's all Mitchell, right?
Yeah, absolute must start. And it's Seattle, who's not very good on defense.
Yeah, Mitchell, gotta love him. Definitely a must start in week 13. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, how do we feel about him?
Kind of similar to Montgomery, James Robinson, probably going to need a touchdown. So he's an okay start, but not a must start.
Never going to be a must start for me. It's the guy that, doesn't get enough touches. Denver's defense is good enough that I'll say he is kind of a borderline flex play. You could roll him out, but he doesn't get full seal of approval. All right, now it's time to look at those committees and timeshares that everybody loves for fantasy purposes, starting with the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of question marks in terms of health there, but let's start with Miles Sanders, maybe battling a sore ankle, but if he goes, is he a must start?
I think he is. I mean, it's the Jets. It's hard to bench a running back against the Jets.
Agree. Against the Jets, yeah, Miles Sanders, if he plays, I'm actually going to call him a must start. Maybe the first time I've done that all year. Boston Scott, same situation.
I think so because, the Eagles, they don't just lean on one running back. They'll use both these guys. So I think Boston Scott is definitely a must start as well.
You know what? I might actually like Boston Scott even better than Sanders. We saw what happened. Scott's the guy getting more work around the goal line. He's getting more consistent carries and touches than any running back in this backfield. Jordan Howard, don't think he's going to play, but I'm full systems go on Boston Scott in week 13. All right, what about the Broncos, that tandem of Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams? Let's start with Gordon against Kansas City. Does that make you feel optimistic against that defense or the opposite?
I'm in the middle here. I think he's an okay start. Kansas City's defense has been better lately, So if that trend continues, this is not nearly as good a spot for the Broncos as it was last week. So he's an okay start, but not a must start.
Yeah, I don't feel quite as good about him as I did last week, and this is not quite as great of a matchup on paper. So he's a maybe. What about Javonte Williams? Pretty much the same thing, I assume.
Yeah, same thing. Unfortunately, Gordon still did out-touch him, even though Javonte Williams had that monster game last week. But Gordon's still getting the majority of the touches there. Not the majority, but more of the touches. So Javonte, same thing. He's an okay start, but not a must start.
Yeah, same. I mean, it's amazing how two backs in the same team can have almost the exact same fantasy value for the entire season. So both guys, you can put them in your flex spot or your RB2 spot if you need them, but you don't have to. All right, another duo here in New England, Damien Harris and then Ramondre Stevenson. Starting with Harris, you know I love him, but I also don't love that he's going against the Buffalo defense in Week 13. So you gonna take him out of your lineup?
Yeah, he's a must sit for me. This is a brutal three-headed monster in New England right now, so must sit for me.
All right, so I'm not going to say he's a must sit. I think you can start Harris, and not just because he's my boy, but even last week against Tennessee, a really tough run defense, he still found a way to get in the end zone. I think he could do the same against Buffalo. He'll probably get leaned on more so. So he is a maybe for me. You can start him. Ramondre Stevenson, I'm just going to say no.
Yeah, must sit as well.
Other side there, Buffalo's running duo, which now all of a sudden is not Zach Moss, but Matt Breida, your boy, and Devin Singletary. How do you feel about Breida, the Warrior, coming back to Buffalo?
I think he's okay as a deep league flex play. Definitely not a must start, but if you need him in a deeper league for your flex, I think he's okay.
Yeah, I think you could in a PPR league, but you definitely can't call him a must start against the Patriots. Devin Singletary, gonna guess you're going with no.
Actually, I'm a little higher on Devin Singletary than Matt Breida this week. Not that I think he's a must start, but he actually got the bulk of the snaps last week and the bulk of the touches. So, and for as good as New England's defense has been, they haven't been particularly good against the run. So, not a must start, but I think he's a good start.
Yeah, I'm still off of Singletary. Can't do it, especially against good defense. And then in Baltimore, we still have Devonta Freeman there, technically the lead back. How do you feel about him against Pittsburgh?
I mean, it's Pittsburgh, and that defense looks awful right now, but I can't call him a must start. He's still very touchdown dependent, so okay start.
Yeah, in the standard league, you could roll him out. If you're desperate, you can roll him out, but can't be a must start. Latavius Murray can't either.
No, for me, Latavius Murray's a must sit. Just not getting enough work. Doesn't look like he has much juice left either, so he's a must sit.
All right, those are our running back picks for Week 13. Don't forget, in addition to these videos, we have a lot of other ways to help you win at fantasy. Check out the description below for more details. All right, guys, good luck.